Hello once again, and Tony here, and yes, I've changed my shirt. The other shirt that I wore earlier in my other upload just didn't really do anything for me. It looked kind of crappy, so I settled for this. Anyways, that's beside the point. Here I am once again with another classic movie review, and this time we're going back to 1967 with Disney's The Jungle Book, which I caught during my flight from Buenos Aires to Paris. The director of this film was Wolfgang Reitherman. The producer was none other than the great Walt Disney, who was also, this is also his last project that he did before he passed away. And the screenplay was done by Larry Clemens, Ralph Wright, Ken Anderson, Vance Jerry, Floyd Norman, and Bill Peet. This was based on the book by the same name by Rudyard Kipling, and it stars Phil Harris, Sebastian Cabot, Louis Prima, George Sanders, Sterling Holloway, J. Pat O'Malley, Bruce Reitherman, and Verna Felton. Now, Jungle Book, back then when I was 5 years old, was a very enjoyable film that I watched, and I remember watching this with one of my cousins from my mom's side of the family. It was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun with this film because of the music and the very endearing characters. And it's still held as probably one of the most nostalgic movies I've ever seen, but not really one of the best Disney films I've ever seen. That honor goes to The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is, well, very intriguing, but I'm not here to talk about that. With The Jungle Book, it was very entertaining, it was just a lot of fun, and yes, it was totally deviating from the original source material, which was that of Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, because, well, that original book definitely had a lot of sad moments and some dark moments as well. Not to mention a lot of heavy stuff, so all of that was cut out and turned into a very family-friendly film. So, how does my opinion of Jungle Book hold up to this very day? I still enjoy it, and sure, there are some flaws which I'll get to later in this video, but still, it's a very enjoyable film, and it has a lot of great and very memorable and very catchy musical numbers. Besides, I caught those musical numbers first in my Disney sing-along songs VHS ever since I was a toddler, and I remember dancing to the Bare Necessities ever since I was that age. And not to mention I Want to Be Like You and That's What Friends Are For. Those were the 3 songs I remembered. And I remembered having a lot of fun with them. Mostly the Bare Necessities and the I Want to Be Like You song, which was just so much fun. And when I saw the film, it was still that fun. And I was kinda saddened when Baloo got seriously injured by Sher Khan. I thought it was just really sad. But then again, let's get on with the review. So story-wise, it's a lot of fun. It did deviate from the original source material very heavily because of one story that happened in the 1960s before this film was made. Basically, Walt Disney told the people behind this film to not read the original book because, well, it contains a lot of heavy stuff. So they did base some of the events of this movie from the book, but really edited a lot of things out. I mean, edit it not to make it too safe, but edit it just to make it, like, lighter, more family-friendly, a lot more fun, and just, well, fun for everyone. Sure, there was that intense climax with Sher Khan and Mowgli, but that was one of the most intense scenes ever in this film. But still, it's still a lot of fun, and it's still very enjoyable. However, there are a few problems with the pacing. Like, we aren't introduced to Sher Khan until, like let's say halfway or even like way before the climax of when Mowgli is like running away from Baloo. We're not introduced to him yet, And it's kind of a pity because I would have loved to see him in like the first scene where he's terrorizing all the wolves and probably would have killed any of them or one of them. It would have been totally scary and it would have been totally frightening. I mean, if Snow White and Pinocchio can frighten me with one of their scenes, why couldn't the Jungle Book with Sher Khan if he would have just, well, terrorized the Wolf Clan or something like that? That would have been very badass and very, very cool to watch. But other than that, aside from a few pacing problems, like one of them, it's still a very enjoyable story, even though it does deviate from the source material. But still, what we get is a very fun and very energetic film that is absolutely a lot of fun for everyone. The animation is very detailed for its time and very, very gorgeous. The backgrounds are extremely beautiful, and the character designs are very endearing as well. And, well, the animation for its time was very smooth and very even with no corner cutting. And yes, there were moments where sometimes the animation can be reused, but that just happens only for a few scenes, but it's not really that obnoxious. So even though there were some animation being, well, reused, it's still a worthy effort from the people behind this movie or who animated this movie. It still looks very good even to this very day. Now the characters, well, are quite endearing, though they don't always get a huge amount of development. To quote the animated heroine, she stated that Disney kinda sucks when it comes to character development. And, well, not really sucks, but kind of mediocre when it comes to character development. Because sometimes the characters don't grow that much, or they grow only a little bit, yet some only stay the way they are. And with Jungle Book's characters, they were very entertaining, though they don't really get a huge amount of development. With Mowgli, he does get some development, but there are times that he's like this rambunctious and very stubborn young boy, but only does he develop somewhere in the later part of the movie because of, well, I won't really spoil it. If you've already watched this film, you know what I mean. But it's safe to say that he does get a little bit of development, especially when facing Shere Khan. But still, for the record, Mowgli, he may be stubborn and he may be like rash and, well, kind of childish because he's still a kid. He's still like, what, 10 years old and still has to know the way of the world around him and has to accept whatever, well, tribulations come along his way. So ultimately, it's a little bit of a coming of age story for him. But still, he's still a good kid character. He's not annoying, but he's still quite charming in his own way because of his tough nature, because he really wants to prove himself to be a brave person. He wants to prove himself that he wants to prove that he can really make it out on his own. And sure, they don't always go his way. Sure, he screws up, but he can learn, but it just takes time. But still, he's a very good kid character who's not annoying. Baloo is still very entertaining. My God, was he one of my childhood heroes. I mean, he didn't have to be heroic. He just simply had to be, well, fun. The most heroic thing that he did in this movie was his battle with Shere Khan, which I thought was just fantastic. Baloo is definitely just so entertaining. Every time he scat sings, every time he sang the Bare Necessities, it was just a lot of fun watching this bear get the moves on and just really love life. He is a carefree and very, very fun-loving spirit, and he's extremely entertaining. And if I were to meet him in real life, I would really just go out of my way and just go ahead and be friends with him. He's really a great character, and even though he doesn't always have like a huge amount of development, it's still really cool to see someone like him just be who he is and just have a lot of fun. And his relationship with Mowgli is also very endearing, and that he really is like a mentor to him, though a lot more relaxed, as opposed to Bagheera's sterner and strict upbringing. And speaking of Bagheera, Bagheera is a perfect foil to Baloo. While Baloo is very mellow and very, very fun-loving and somewhat of a troublemaker, Bagheera is very uptight, yet very direct and very clear-minded of what he has to do. He is someone who has sworn his duty to protect Mowgli with all of his life, and he basically protects Mowgli with all his being, because, yes, Mowgli was raised by the wolf family after he was orphaned at a very young age, while he was still a baby. So when the wolf family told him to take care of Mowgli, he does it. He makes sure that Mowgli stays and obeys every command, everything that he does, and I pretty much consider Bagheera to be another great role model because, yes, he's uptight. Yes, he's strict. Yes, he can get on certain people's nerves at times. But when it comes to protecting the ones that he cares for, like Mowgli, he does it very well. It really shows that he has a very stern nature, but he just wants the best for him. He just wants to make Mowgli understand that, yes, the situation that Mowgli is getting himself into is very dangerous and that he has to stay safe. Even though Mowgli is defiant, Bagheera just makes sure that Mowgli stays safe. And this is probably why I really like Bagheera as a character. Even though he can be the agony uncle, he does it quite reasonably because he cares for Mowgli's well-being, just like what any concerned guardian would do. And I've spent too much time on Bagheera. Let's talk about Sher Khan. Now, Sher Khan has also been regarded as one of Disney's greatest animal villains. And I have to say, he's quite menacing. Sure, the praise that he gets for being one of Disney's greatest animal villains can be quite the stretch, because in essence, Sher Khan is, simply put, a snooty yet very powerful type of bully character who makes consistent, sharp glares at the viewers and even at the other characters to know of his presence because, well, what more can you say? He just wants someone dead in his own claws. He's a menacing type of force. And yes, the original Jungle Book depicted Sher Khan as kind of weak, and he has to rely on his two jackal companions, one of them being named Tabaki, for doing his dirty deeds. But with this film version, Sher Khan is a powerhouse, both physically and mentally. He does not fall for Ka's hypnosis, and my god, his build, it's obvious that he's a Bengal tiger, is very muscular. He could really crush you just at the drop of a hat. I mean, looking at this tiger, you know that you are screwed. And it was just really cool seeing this type of character on screen. I definitely like Sher Khan as an animal villain. Yes, he may not be as wildly ferocious as Sabor from Tarzan, nor does he need to have any, like, jealousy issues just like Scar. But when it comes to ferocity and when it comes to sheer strength and sheer glowering presence, the sheer glowering presence that he has it. And Ka is also entertaining in his own little way. The way he hypnotizes Mowgli and the other characters, I thought was just really funny. He's mainly a comical villain, but yes, he's very entertaining nonetheless. And King Louie, my god, is he another fun character. He basically chews the scenery. The same thing with his band of monkeys. So overall, the characters in the Jungle Book, while not having a huge amount of development, are very entertaining and a lot of fun to root for. Whether they be good, like Mowgli or Bagheera, or evil, like Sher Khan. The voice acting for the time was well done. Now, this was one of Bruce Reitherman's, I'm talking about Mowgli's character, this was one of Bruce Reitherman's most acclaimed roles of all time. He really gets Mowgli's defiant nature and his attitude that says that he's brave enough to handle himself throughout any situation in his life. He really knows how to nail Mowgli's impudence at times, but also that of Mowgli's brave soul, and he really knows how to make Mowgli a very believable type of kid character. Now, Phil Harris as Baloo. This is one of his most iconic roles of all time. Even after his passing, fans still remember this voice actor, or this actor, as Baloo. He got everything that made Baloo such a lovable character to this very day. The scat singing, the mannerisms, everything. He just made Baloo just like a character we want to see every day, and we just want to make this character real, and it just feels that his presence, that how he voices Baloo is just really awesome. Sebastian Cabot as Bagheera was very fine all around. George Saunders as Sher Khan. This is another iconic role for him. This is definitely one of his most iconic roles from Disney. And just to give you a little trivia, that low C that Sher Khan was singing, I found out that that low C was sung by Bill Lee. And yeah, I really enjoyed that little scene with Sher Khan singing that low C. It was just wow. I mean, my God, excuse me, Sher Khan can have a career as a bosso, as a bosso opera singer. It's just that hilarious. Yeah, it's just hilarious with that one part that Bill Lee sang that low C. So yeah, it was just fun. And George Saunders does a fantastic job with Sher Khan. And Darlene Carr, even though she had a singing role, well, was just gorgeous. She was only 27 at that time, and for a 27-year-old, her voice sounded so developed, so womanly, so ethereal, so gorgeous, so woman-like. And you don't get this type of quality singing today. And I have to say, it's just really astonishing that someone like Darlene Carr can sing that beautifully. And Louis Prima as King Louie. A lot of fun to have. And Sterling Holloway as the Snake Ka. Oh, just fantastic. Oh, and lest I forget about Colonel Hothy. Great character because at times he can be such a huge ham. And his wife, Winifred, knows how to keep his hamminess and arrogance in check. And Happy Jr., honestly, he's a very endearing character as well. And these elephants were voiced by, let's see, with Happy's case, he was voiced, oh yes, by J. Pat O'Malley, who does a superb job. Verna Felton as Winifred, superb as well. Both of them really work well off of each other. And Clint Howard as Happy Jr., very endearing. So overall, the acting, even to this very day, has held up for me. They all gave very believable performances. And the songs, need I remind you about the songs? They are all catchy. My personal favorites being We Are Friends, sung by the Vultures, which are clearly reminiscent of the Beatles. And in some occasions, I do like Bare Necessities, and also I Want to Be Like You. They're just a lot of fun. So the music overall is just so much fun, making great use of traditional Indian music alongside some jazz, and it's just an interesting mix. So overall, while there were like a few amount of flaws with this film, it still holds up as a very good and very enjoyable film. While it's not really my most ultimate favorite Disney film of all time, it is still very enjoyable and can be watched by everyone, no matter how old you are. It is still so much fun. It has a lot of heart put into it, and even though it deviated from the original source material, it is still so much fun. And that's why I'm going to give Disney's Jungle Book a 4 out of 5 stars. It is totally worth it. It is worth it to watch it no matter how old you are. And the songs will make you just want to dance day in and day out. And this is definitely a good recommendation. Whether you're a Disney fan or even an animation fan, this film can really, or even if you're a musical fan or a jazz fan, this film can really put a huge smile on your face. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in to another classic movie review, and this time it's another animated movie. However, unlike the first two, I don't really have high hopes for this one. And what is this film, you might ask? Well, okay, it's Kumba. So stay tuned for that later. I don't really have high hopes for this film, but still, it's my job to really take care of what I think about this film. So until then, catch y'all later.